Good afternoon, those who are in South Africa and all other parts of the world. I know Darante comes from, is it the US?
Yes, sir.
And then good morning. So yeah, we'll see where you are. It will depend. Today we've got a very interesting guest because, if they have a background from high in the echelons, hey, that must be a very good deconversion. It's carrying more substance than somebody maybe who was just a member. So, how are you?
I am doing wonderful. Thank you for having me.
Yes, I must say, in just a short period that I've seen you and have looked at the progress in social media, you are going to do very well. And I'm glad that we are together here today. Tell me about your background. I've seen that you're a pastor, but I'm just getting from what I got on the social media. There must be more to it. Tell me about the background. Did you grow up in the religion, or did you get in at a certain stage?
That's a great question. I grew up in what I call a family who was culturally religious, which means they went to church sometimes. They talked about the Bible every now and then, but my family didn't really live by the Bible. They didn't really judge anybody by the Bible or anything like that. It was just something that we culturally did. I had read the Bible as a child, and I didn't see anything in it that would convince me to believe in a God or anything like that at those times. It wasn't until I started going to more charismatic and Pentecostal churches. My mother was a drug addict at the time. And so she would go to these deliverance services every now and then where the people would claim to cast the devil out of her and cast the drugs out of her, and she'd be whole for a while. And so that's when I actually decided to start to give God a chance, when I saw that, okay, maybe this God is up to something. Maybe he can do something. If he could save my mother, he can do something. Well, it never really stuck with my mother, but for some reason, I still kept giving it a try. So I started in small little Pentecostal holiness churches when I was about 11. So I was actually one of the first people in my family to start taking church seriously. And it actually created tension for my family. They did not like the fact that I was serious about studying the Bible, that I was serious about going to church, and that I was serious about asking questions. So I became sort of even more of an outcast for family. And then I actually became an outcast at church. So I often tell people my entire experience with church was highly traumatic. From the beginning to the end, I was a very inquisitive child, so I asked a lot of questions, and churches did not like that. And so I always had to kind of find answers on my own. I often tell people in my early days, I was called the Antichrist. I was called Beelzebub. I was possessed with the spirit of the devil simply because I wanted to know things that didn't make sense to me. So in the Pentecostal churches, women couldn't wear pants, and I couldn't find a justification for that. Men couldn't have long hair, and I couldn't find biblical justification for that. And so it just seemed to me that, hey, we're kind of just making up rules as we go. But I don't want to assume that. I want to kind of get some clarity. I then got involved with Word of Faith churches. More mainstream Christianity. I became highly obsessed with watching TBN. And so I was watching people like Rod Parsley, Benny Hinn, Bishop Eddie Long, Juanita Bynum, Paula White, just the whole crew. And then started really attaching to churches like that. So started going to larger churches, felt like I was learning something, felt like I was super duper anointed. I could lay hands on people and they'd fall out. I can lay hands on people who claim to be sick and they would claim to be healed. I can lay hands on people suffering from, whatever they got going on, and it would look like, a devil is happening or whatever. But throughout...
Before you pass that one.
Yes.
there are a number of things that I've noticed. I've noticed that you came from a general Christian family,
mm-hmm.
the ones who fill in Christian in application forms.
Mm-hmm.
but you got into serious Christianity,
Yes, sir.
which is a bit different from me because with me, I came from a family which was very religious,
Wow.
and I had to keep up with the standard. But that you mentioned the issue of laying hands.
Mhm.
Later, I would like to know whether what happens there, is it real or is it something that you tell people,
Oh
or is it
man.
people wanting to satisfy you? But yeah, we'll get into that one.
Well, that's actually a great sort of segue because this does tie into my deconstruction. Um, I was always looking for the miraculous. I believed it. As a matter of fact, I was a firm believer that we didn't have the miraculous in the United States because we weren't desperate enough. And you just got to imagine how sick that is. It was the mindset as well. We're not desperate enough for God to do something for us. We're not desperate enough for God to do miracles. But preachers over here, we'd say, but in Africa, they're desperate enough. They're getting the miracles over there. God is actually raising the dead over there because they are just so hungry and thirsty. That was a major part of our theology, and I was convinced that we have to be desperate over here, like our brothers and sisters over there, so we can get more of God, right? And I honestly believe that that would happen. Unfortunately, it didn't. So every miraculous moment that I've always been able to kind of see the natural phenomenons that were at work, and that was always troubling for me as a preacher. So there are things that I've always been sort of familiar with just because I was well read as a child. So behaviors such as social hysteria, which is no different than what we see at a funeral or a concert. You can
Mhm.
be in a funeral and not have any connection to the dead person in the casket, but if other people in that room start crying, there is a greater
Oh, yeah.
likelihood that you're going to share that same experience. It's just, you can
Because
go ahead.
we are empathetic creatures.
Absolutely, absolutely. So
Uh,
a lot of what we experience in church is that social hysteria, that same type of sociological hysteria we'd experience at a concert, where the concert is getting really good, the music is really driven. These people have put a
oh
lot of
yeah,
thought in how they've organized this, and
you get
you're
good bumps.
participating. Yes, and then if you've already been taught to assign these things to a phenomenon, as opposed
Uh,
to understanding that phenomenon, you are more susceptible to believe that something else is happening. And just that belief in itself, the moment you feel those goosebumps and you say, these goosebumps are Jesus, then you've just
Holy Spirit.
given. Right, yeah, it's the spirit of God on me. Oh, you've kind of like hyped yourself up at that moment and given
Ah,
yourself over to more participation. And so I saw that a lot happening, especially with laying hands on people, that you could see that this is actually learned behavior. This is learned sociological behavior. You can pay attention to people of all ages, and one of the ways that you know it, because the responses are almost always the same. Is one of the ways I can almost recognize a lie when I can go to different places in my community and hear the exact same story, the exact same way. I'm almost like, yeah, somebody's lying. But you begin to see this because, okay, not everybody's falling out the same way, everybody's speaking in tongues the same way. This is learned behavior. This is nothing more than children looking up at what other people do. Another thing
mhm.
that bothered me was the word hallelujah, right? So this is just one of those things, one of those small things, and it's not even going to be a deep issue. It's a small issue. It's just how weird my mind works. But I just noticed that people who had never been shrouded in church language before can come into one service and sit in that service. They've never used phrases like hallelujah or amen before. These are not words that are easily understood. You don't know that, you can't presume the definition just by hearing the word. But
Oh
if you're
yes,
sitting,
they are foreign language.
absolutely, it is an absolute foreign language. But this person will sit in a church service, never hearing the language before, but just hearing other people use the word, will eventually start using the word in the service. Just sitting there in
Mhm.
service, hearing other people say, hallelujah. Okay, that night. Hallelujah. So now you've integrated this word that you have absolutely no clue what it means. And I'm not saying it means anything bad. I'm just saying you have no clue what it means. and you
Mhm.
easily integrated it into your vocabulary just to feel comfortable with the other people who are using the word. And I begin to realize that much of the
Yeah.
Christian experience is like that.
And usually, when a parrot says hello to me, I ask myself, does it know that it's greeting me or what?
Right. That was perfect. Exactly. Because
Uh,
that's what you do end up getting in the church world, at least from my experience. You get a lot of parrots, a lot of people who are just parroting what they heard other people say, without any real understanding of it, which is why people who are in it and trying to understand quickly become outcast. They quickly stand out because what you find is that there's not many people in this faith who have good reason to be there. And everybody that
mhm,
was looking for good reason to be there ends up getting out because you can't find good reason to be a part of this. And that was the struggle for me. I often tell people I became a Christian on credit, which means, God, I'm willing to trust you if you'll do some things, and I gave God like over 20 years and those things just never happened. And I realized that I had coached myself this whole way through into seeing God where there was no God, into hearing God where there was no God, and then actually into
mhm.
ignoring people. And that was the real danger, not just the good of people, but also the bad of people. I think one of the most dangerous things that I personally was impacted by with my religious experience is that it robbed me of my ability to see and respond to the world as it was. So I made a lot of
Oh,
bad
yeah.
decisions in the first 20 years just walking on faith and believing that nope, God is going to do this, God is going to do this. I trusted people who were not trustworthy and had given me no reason to believe that they were trustworthy. But because I wanted to trust God, I was like, oh, God will take care of it. God isn't going to let these people of his mistreat me any type of way or anything
But,
like that.
but what do we expect if we ignore flesh? I mean, these
Exactly.
are made out of flesh, and
Yes.
if you ignore it and you depend on faith, you are going to be robbed a number of times.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I definitely
And
was.
what is that moment that sparked this deconversion?
Okay.
Because if you have been in it for 20 years, that's a long time. It's
Yep.
not like it's a fluke.
Right.
Yeah, what happened?
Um, around 20 between 2012 and 2014, the United States were in an uproar because two kids had been killed in close time frame. One was Mike Brown, and one was Trayvon Martin.
I remember those two cases.
Yes, sir. Around this time, several of my preacher contemporaries were being very vocal. Which is what the black church is good at. We're good at being vocal and taking credit for stuff we didn't do. But I'll go there another time. But all of
Yes.
my all of my preacher friends were very vocal, and they were all doing sermon series about it. And but I noticed it was very commercialized, and the focus became to get new members, not to address the problem. And that was a threshold for me, where I said, I'm not in this to pretend to help my people. And what I'm looking at now is I believe that the theology I've accepted and the practice that I've accepted actually prevents me from seeing the real problem and being a part of the
Mhm.
real solution. And so I actually made a decision around that time that I cannot serve God while ignoring my people. So at this moment, I didn't feel like I was good enough to determine which one to serve. So I just made it clear, God, from this point on, I'm going to serve the interest of my people. And that was my slippery slope, because at that moment, God was still a possibility in my head, but was becoming less and less relevant. If kids that look like my kids can be shot down at any moment, and the only thing my church has for them is prayer, I don't want any part of that. I need something that's going to guarantee justice, or that's going to work for justice, and that actually knows I almost cussed, but almost knows what justice looks like. And what I noticed about the church is that the church, at least the black church experience where I'm from, had no clue what justice even looked like, had no
Mhm.
clue how to even, go after justice. And that became a great disconnect for me. How do you say you have this relationship with this righteous God and you cannot identify righteousness? This is very interesting for me. This is a parallel. This is something that I cannot reconcile, which means that if you claim to have this relationship with this righteous God and you cannot recognize righteousness, your God is either not righteous or your God is not real. And either way, it became to me that it's just completely irrelevant, because my people, and I just have to speak from that point, have been in these situations for a very long time. And if there was any type of God who was all powerful or all good, something would have been done by now. And so
Mhm.
it became very clear to me. In that moment, I went from being mad at God to being mad at myself.
Mhm.
And that was really my moment of awakening, because my question, I began having these kind of like, where were you, like where were you in this, and where were you in this, when my people are being shipped across the seas, where are you, when our culture is being raped and pillaged, where are you? And then the
Mhm.
question switched to me, like, no, where were we, where was
And
I?
I love that video that you made. Is it last week where you are talking about the evolution of the way
Yes.
that we view God?
Yes, sir.
And listening to it, I remember myself. There's a time that I looked at God as something outside, but
Hmm.
as time goes on, I started thinking that God is actually humanity collectively,
Yes, sir.
and all the other things that are living. And when you say you did not know whether to become loyal to God or to the people,
Yeah.
and that statement, if you caught me at the time that I was making a shift, it would sound like I did not know whether to be loyal to the people or to be loyal to the people. Because that is what we are trying to satisfy when we are trying to satisfy God. We are trying to be good to people,
Yes.
uh, even though I'm very finicky when it comes to language. I don't like people using labels that are confusing. So I
Yeah.
would rather call people people,
Yep.
even though I know that, hey, actually now I'm actually serving people here. Other people would say I'm serving God. Uh, uh, yeah, a bit confusing.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
the story, how it moves from that aha moment
Yeah.
as it goes forward, because I know from the time that we notice, it's not easy just to jump off the
No.
bus,
No, it is not.
because I think in my case I jumped off when I was 14, but
Wow.
I left church when I was 38.
Wow.
So it takes
Wow.
a long time in between because there's a momentum
Yes, sir.
that you have to deal with.
Yes, sir. Well, that was my biggest fear, right? Especially been someone who was in ministry, who was pastoring. It's like, okay, what happens to my life now? Everybody who knows me identifies me as a pastor, identifies me as a Christian, as a believer. And now I'm at this place in my life where I don't believe this anymore. My life wasn't very stable, as was at that time. I was never a very rich pastor. I never hit the mega church ranks. I had a lot of mega church friends. My church was not one of them. I pastored
Mhm.
very poor people, which is the majority of pastors in the states. Mega churches only represent 5% of our churches here, but they're just the ones you see the most. The majority of our churches are really filled with poor people.
And what did other pastors say when they meet with you? Didn't they tell you that your priorities are not right?
Oh yes, I got all types of things now. But the problem was, the problem they had with me was I knew them too well, and so my response to them was, "There's no way you do what you do and actually believe there's a hell." So you can say what you want to say to anybody else, but I know you, brother. I know your secrets. I know what you've done. I know who you've done it with. I know when you did it. So you cannot because we had the conversation. I let them know. I was like, hey guys, I don't believe in this anymore, blah, blah, blah. And they said, oh, you gotta believe in this. And I'm like, brother, you don't even believe in it. I told one of my former compatriots, I said, I know for a fact you cheated on your wife several times, and you still get in the pulpit and preach like there's nothing wrong with it. There's no way you believe that there's a God who is judging you and you're doing
Mhm.
that. And so the truth of the matter is, and this is, and I firmly believe this about most pastors I've met, I don't believe most pastors I've met actually believe in God. I don't believe they believe it. I believe it is a cultural attachment for them that they're not smart enough to articulate their ways out of it. It was Carter G. Woodson when he talked about the church in the States, specifically the black church. He lamented that our church was filled with people who were undereducated and ignorant, and that he was concerned that this would create problems that would derail our academic processes, in this country. And he was not wrong, because when you come into our churches, the amount of foolishness that you find in there, the amount of superstition, the amount of backwards ideologies, the amount of people who are stuck and don't have to be, the amount of people who are allowing themselves to live in the same traumatic circles. Our churches in the States, from the black context, have become trauma bonds. The whole black church experience is about, you can't make it on your own, and come in here so we can heal each other and make each other happy, and then go back out there and experience more trauma so you can come back to church Sunday and fill up, and I can tell you can't nobody do you like Jesus. It's this loop over and over again. And I let all my preacher friends know that, hey, I was done with it. I'm good. I'm okay.
And that's the momentum that I'm talking about. That
Yes, sir.
once you're in it, it's difficult to break out.
Yes.
Did you see that comment that came down here? It's similar to the comment that I did when we were in the back room before we came here.
Yeah.
Talking about the voice and that it should be used for good use.
Oh, yes.
In fact, we are glad that you came to our community now.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. So, the other thing that I noticed, as you mentioned there, is that people who lead these congregations, they are not believers.
Oh, man. Oh, no.
In fact, I think you stop becoming a believer as you go up the ranks. There's a level where when you reach it, then you just start to see too much.
Yep. Yeah.
You see too much and say, there's no way that God could be watching over us here.
No.
Things are like this. And even the organizations that you report to, you see that now there's something that is missing.
That's right.
I grew up as a Jehovah's Witnesses.
Oh, wow.
And, when you are young, you see it seems everything is good here. But the more you go up the ranks, the more you know people, and the more you start to know people at the head office, and you say, now something is missing here now.
Like, this is not how I thought this was gonna be up here. I thought everybody was gonna be holy and praying and fasting.
No.
What happened?
They will tell you that, oh no, remember that we are just humans, and all of us are trying to satisfy God, and we are doing our best. But now, the rate that is happening at, you can see that people now, they don't have this belief that they're talking about.
Yep. And that was, no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. I wanted to ask a question, but I'll disturb that one.
Well, no, it was the thing that really crossed my mind there is that seeing how many churches I did get to kind of climb up the ranks with, and one of the things that I was always hoping for is that one of these preachers that I'm meeting who are so successful and are doing well, they're going to be able to talk to me about how the Bible came to be, because that was my biggest question in my younger years, is like, how do we get this book, and how can we say with the certainty that this is the Word of God? I'd like to know a little bit more about the process before I try to impose that on others. And out of my 20 years in ministry, I did not find one pastor who understood the canonization process.
Yes. I was going to throw that word. I would say, they would say, this book are canonized.
Yeah.
That's why they are 66. But when I want to know the process of canonization, even there, then people fall on their face.
Yes.
How do we know which one is the canon?
Yes.
Why?
Yes. These were
somebody
very valid
looked
questions.
at different books and tried to remove as much what do we call it? Areas that don't agree.
Yeah, yeah.
Then when they were left with as little as possible, then they said, okay, no, now it can do as a book, because it is not one book;
It is
it's a lot
not.
of books.
Yes.
Even
That
the name itself saying Bible, you say
yeah,
books.
that's right. That's right. Literally library.
Yes. Well, how did this come to become one book, and who said it must be a book?
Right. Right. Who said that this has a united message? Who says that this united message is for me? Who said this message is timeless, period? Who said this
Uh-huh.
message didn't have an expiration date? That this message wasn't just for the 30 years of the time that it was written, or any of these things. And then the more and more I
Mm.
started to study it, it was like, wait a minute. So we get up in the pulpit every day and say Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, when there's no evidence that any of these books were written by Matthew, Mark,
By
Luke, or
those
John.
people.
And
Mm-mm.
that's disingenuous to me. I'm like, so we're actually lying and not calling it lying. But that's like even in most Bibles says Moses split the Red Sea. But if it's a study Bible, it will have the footnote there saying that the language there does not say the Red Sea. It says the Sea of Reeds. But it began to bother me that what then if we know that it says the Sea of Reeds, why are we still translating it as the Red Sea in our prints of the Bible? To me, that's not a holy endeavor. At that moment, you're purposefully leaving it in there as Red Sea to make it sound bigger of an event than it is. And when you start
Like
pulling at
drama.
strings like that, it all falls apart.
Imagine those pictures that we see of walls of water.
Yes.
How do you do that with reeds?
Right. How do you do this? Yes. This story gone. It's like they're just walking through the grass now. I don't know. Oh my. It was yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. And any organization that is involved in your deconversion work, or you are just going on your own?
On my own. It was me and my wife. She was the only person that I was really exposing to how I was thinking at the time. Which at that time this was my second marriage. My first marriage did not work out because of my deconversion. To this day, my ex-wife is convinced that I am of the devil and that the devil is leading me, and so that just wasn't going to work. So my new wife, her and I had a lot of conversations. I even gave her the opportunity to, hey, if you don't want to be with me because my mind is edging this way, I completely understand. I don't want to hold anybody hostage to anything, and I don't have these beliefs anymore that you're a second class citizen and you're less than me because some stranger ate a fruit, allegedly 6,000 years ago, and so my wife and I we became equals. We became partners. I think that's probably one of the biggest gifts that this experience gave to me is like, hey, I refuse to see you as less than me. That's not how this is going to work. As a matter of fact, I'm head of household for me is just a tax thing. It doesn't exist in my house. We're both leaders in this house. You're a grown person. I'm a grown person. That's how we kind of operate.
Situation leadership, because there are certain things that she's good at more than
Right.
I am, or
Yep.
certain things I'm good more than she is. And
Come on.
imagine if I was that leader,
Right.
believing that I'm the head, then every time something doesn't work out, then I'm in trouble.
That's right.
I told
Come
you,
on.
I told you.
That was it.
That is why so
Partnership
many
is
men
better
are
than
so
leadership.
stressed.
Speaking of which, that's my wife right there in the comments. Oh
Now
man.
we are the same there. I don't buy into that issue of the head of the family.
Yes.
It is so primitive. It
Yes.
was designed by the patriarchs,
Absolutely.
and it's designed to to embarrass you.
Oh yes. And it's an embarrassing situation. Oh man. I and that was
Uh,
I guess and I think that's probably one of the biggest freedoms I've had as an atheist is I no longer have to assume that there is a way that life should work. I can actually pay attention and find out. I can actually look
yes,
around, pay attention, and see what's best.
you become more of an observer,
Yes.
and you become more. conscious
Mm-hmm.
of what is happening around you,
Yes, indeed.
whereas being spiritual, we try to change the environment.
Yeah.
There's reality and there's scriptures, and
Mm-hmm.
every time we try to fit scriptures into reality, and we end up lying, not being
Yes.
aware that we are lying.
That's right. I lied to myself a lot in those early days.
Yeah. And people then start looking at us as if we are crazy and we don't understand why people are like this. Then we think that, oh, the Bible said the world is going to hate us. Yeah,
Yes.
that's what is happening.
Oh man. You know,
uh,
well, and that's another interesting phenomenon on this side of atheism. Like as a Christian, I had so many enemies. Everywhere there was an enemy. There was an enemy under every rock. As a Christian, enemies became so common in Christianity that literally 75% of the sermons in black churches over here are about the enemy
exactly.
and about your haters. And it's like it's even your enemy is on the road with you. And I'm like, what?
Exactly. Any church that talks a lot about enemies, you'll
Hmm.
see it will have a lot of members and they are so worked up when they're
Yes.
there.
Yes.
Hallelujah, hallelujah. Others are even crying.
And look, I was right there with him for the longest point. And then one day
Uh-huh.
it hit me. It's like, hold up, now if this is supposed to be the house of God, why is everybody in here an enemy? Like this is not where we're supposed to have the enemies at. And
No,
then
but
now,
the big
yes.
story is God,
Hmm.
Satan, two enemies,
Yep.
and we go on duplicating that environment
Yeah,
in
that's
our life.
exactly. That's exactly. I just dropped a video on my page last night about how about the author of confusion. The Bible says God is not the author of confusion, but you really get nothing but
Oh yes,
confusion from
I
day
saw
one.
it already.
Yes, sir. Because
Yeah,
even
because
the
your
early
feed now
church.
comes to me regularly.
Oh wow. Oh man, that
And
is
I'm
awesome.
surprised because your channel is new, but
Yes,
already. What
that's
are you doing? Are you paying, or what do you do?
nothing. I just literally I had 52 subscribers January 15th. As of January 15th, I had 52 subscribers. And I just started sharing this type of stuff and it jumped up. So the only thing I can say is like there must be a need like at this moment because my stuff has never been this popular. I can promise you that. But I can say I had never been this authentic. Hey, I watch her. I had never been this authentic before in any of my presentations.
And
Everything I was trying to do before, I was trying to not identify as an atheist because I was really trying to live in the closet for as long as I could.
that's a very difficult one.
Yes.
There's a time that I was quiet about my not believing, and
Yeah.
it's not a happy time.
No.
In fact, then you start to do things uh, that when people look at you, they think you are a hypocrite.
Yes. Yes.
So you rather just come out and be open that, no, I don't believe in God.
Yes.
And then you don't confuse people.
Yep. Yep.
And I waited for too long.
10 years for me. I waited 10 years. And it was primarily because when people found out that we didn't celebrate Christmas anymore, they freaked out so bad that I was like, "Oh, they're not going to be able to handle the Jesus thing." So I just didn't tell them about that part because literally our family like freaked out. We had people threatening to take our kids because we were like, "We're going to chill on Christmas for a while." And it wasn't even it had nothing to do with the superstition of Christmas. It was an economic issue. I'm a firm believer in like until you're out of poverty, let's not be buying gifts for no reason. Let's pay what we need to pay so we can actually afford to create a life for our kids. Because in this over here, we're passing down poverty while in the most weirdest ways. Like our kids are walking around with Jordans and everything, but just as poor can be, and it doesn't make any sense. And so that was just that was the public decision we had made, and we got attacked from every
Mhm.
side. And so I said, okay, we can't tell anybody about Jesus now because like I ended up losing my job over this. And so, but after 10 years of doing it, I can say it's not been a happy place. I've had to every people have come around me, even people who know, okay, Durante is kind of different, and just kind of imposed themselves on me. They said, "Well, we're gonna get together as a family. Come on, Darante, pray." And I'm like, "All right, now." So this past 10 years, I felt like I've had to be somebody that I'm not for the comfort of
Yeah.
people who don't even care who I am. And
And
so
that's a problem,
that
big
yes,
problem. Uh, Cognitive dissonance also starts from there, I think,
yes,
where you
yes.
find that people have seen already that now I want to go that way, but
Mhm.
okay, here are the beliefs and here are friends, and what do I do? The Christmas one, I remember Nazareth school, they called me the principal, the Nazareth school, say, but what are you doing to children? Because I can see you don't allow them to play with their fantasy. I said, in which way? Says at this stage, children need uh, to have a dream world and
Yeah.
stories,
Mhm.
beliefs like this, tooth fairy and others, they help them to deal with that. I said, but I don't see a need because they will pick up that
Mm-mm.
I'm not genuine when I tell them about these things.
That's right. That's
And
right.
the principal was not happy. He was not happy and said, no, I should reconsider my parenting methods. But by that time, I was not a believer already. So, and I was out of the closet. It was easy to deal with it.
Yep. But
And
doesn't that show how attached we are to superstition though? So it's not even just Jesus. It's almost like any superstition will do.
exactly, because I don't see how the fairy tales and
Hmm.
Christmas, tooth fairy, how can those things warrant a principal talking to me? Because I
Right.
think the children were saying that at school that no, that's a lie. It's
Yeah.
nothing like that.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Mm-mm. And
Uh,
the truth is we live in such a wonderful world that why waste your imagination on things that are not real when there's just these fantastic things out there that are deserving of our
this is a
attention.
dream world.
Yes.
Reality is so unbelievable.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Oh man. Oh.
And tell me, I heard one video where you were inviting the young ones, but at
Yes.
the end, I noticed that it's for a particular project. It's not
Yes.
in general.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
in my mind, I was asking myself, I wonder, are there any other projects where you are focusing on activism
That
or?
is that is a great question.
Mhm,
That project just kind of fell in my lap. It was something that another friend was doing and reached out to me. And so they were looking for people 18 to 25 that are black and in the atheist space, but to bring some visibility to it. At this moment, I am looking for some I'm looking for what the best next steps are for me, especially now that I've come out the closet, that I have shared my views, that people do know clearly where I am. One of the things that I've gravely thought about over the past 10 years is that people who are deconverting and people who've already deconverted need safe space. That was
mhm.
one of the things that I knew even back in 2014 when I went through my journey, is that most people are not going to do this. I've been on my own kind of my whole life. So it was easy for the rejection, the sociological rejection part was somewhat easy for me because I've been a loner, kind of my whole life. But most people are not okay with being alone. Most people psychologically cannot handle being a part of a group every Sunday to now doing nothing on Sundays. Some people can't handle being a part of a praise team, and you're singing, you're going to rehearsal, you're going out to eat with the team, and then you no longer believe, and now you've lost that entire community. And so one of the things that I would like to be a part of is intentionally creating safe community for people who are deconverting and people who have deconverted. However, figuring out what that should look like is the challenge. But that's I definitely believe we need more safe space out there.
Exactly. Even you being in this program, the name of the program is Meet the Atheist.
Yeah.
And one of the reason it was started is it was to bring atheists in the open,
Yes.
so that people should see that they are atheists. And here's the problem that we have here in Africa. The atheists that are visible there are white male atheists.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to see people that are brown, people that are women,
Oh, yes.
children, and the like, it's very unusual.
Yes,
And
sir.
that's why I love this program, because we try to find those people who don't fit the mold of the public of atheists.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. And I did.
And did you see that question that
I was just
Dina?
about to say it. I was just about to
Yes,
say it. Um,
because that's another big thing that
it
we
is.
hear from people.
Yep.
Say, no, 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 we are spiritual as Africans.
That's right.
And, and I ask myself, spiritual how?
No, right.
We find spiritual.
Right, prove it. Well,
Tell me, what can you say about it?
well, I definitely hear it a lot. I even grew up believing it that, hey, black people, we're just naturally spiritual. We're naturally close to God. We're naturally humble. These are all these, types of things that, which of course, loose generalizations, vague stereotypes, and things of that nature. But I still get it today. Well, you're not atheist because you're black. Black people can't be atheists. Which is number one, a profound. Anybody who says that has never looked into history. Number one, that's the first thing you can say, because I know for as far as African American history, our history is replete with black atheists who were part of every significant movement we've had. However, due to black church propaganda, most of their names were pushed to the background. So you have people like A. Philip Randolph in America, who is literally responsible for the civil rights movement. He was an avid atheist. You also have Arturo Schomburg, which is one of the main reasons we have African history in the United States. He wrote an article back in the 1920s called "The Negro Digs Up His Past." Arturo was a avid atheist. We also have Hubert Henry Harrison, who was literally called the Black Socrates in America. So we have a history and a long history of atheism, especially on the African American side. But then also, I've done a little bit of studying now. Because I'm on with you, I'm going to defer to you because you would know a little bit more than me. But I've done a little bit of studying on the continent, and I can identify several traditional belief systems that actually don't have any groundings in what we'd call spirituality, or any other word that any other language like that. Instead, is based in natural phenomenon and observable natural phenomenon based on the language and understanding of the world they had at the time. Which a thing doesn't become superstitious until you have no reason to believe it anymore. Which is why I often say that there was a time where a God was a good hypothesis. There was a time in human history. Now we're a long way from that time, but there was a time in human history where God was a good hypothesis. Now we are so far removed from that time now that it's obviously no longer a good one. And that's when something becomes superstitious to me, is when you have every reason in the world to no longer believe this and you gravitate to it. But when people say that no, being an atheist is un-African, I'd have to ask those people, what do you mean by African? And how does African have anything to do with any superstitious belief? How can a people be attached to superstition just by default, other than by sociological constructs? This is
Mhm.
some type of construct that you've created around us in our kind of imagination, and we've accepted it as true, which we do not have to do anymore. I, by nature of having black skin, don't have to be anything that anybody that also has black skin is. We are all individuals. None of us are defined by anything else other than that. And to me, that is, even the statement alone is evidence of superstitious thinking, to say that Africans can't be atheist or like. So it's. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I got on my soapbox a little bit there.
No, but they use it as peer pressure now lately.
Hmm.
No, no,
Absolutely.
man, you cannot do that. You are black, please, please.
Oh
How
yes.
can you speak like that? Tell me, animism, uh, is
Mhm.
it a belief about God?
Ooh, wow, wow.
Because if where we started is animism,
Hmm.
we're not looking at a particular being as a God.
That's right. That's right.
So where does the story of us being spiritual come from?
Mm-hmm.
When did it get into our society? I don't know.
I can make some guesses. I
Yeah,
can.
and also I heard from your videos that you even have more of an academic approach
Yes,
into
sir.
investigating these things.
Yes, sir.
So that seed also is planted in your head. You'll give us a video of when did we start to think that Africans were spiritual.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. That's oh yes.
It
Yes,
would
that
make for a good video.
challenge accepted. Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. That's a good one.
Then what are you passionate about?
Oh, critical thinking. And to be clear, it's because I'm passionate about human progress. My biggest regret, and I actually say it a lot, even around the house, is the amount of time I wasted. It's the amount of time I wasted believing things that weren't true, which only led me, this whole time. Now, honestly, I saw myself as a big deal in the church world. Okay, so I saw myself as super anointed. I considered myself as an apostle of God, and now, kind of like Paul, I count all of that as dung. Like it was useless. I had all of these titles for no reason. I had, I actually was not contributing to my society, and I actually wasn't learning anything about myself. During this time where I had this big idea about myself was the time that I knew myself the least. It was the time where I saw myself as the most incapable as a human being. I saw myself as sinful and as wretched, ratchet righteousness. My righteousness is just as filthy rags. During that whole period, I wasted so much time self-deprecating that I did not realize the immense value of human capacity. And I
Mhm.
feel that that has really been what religion and superstition has robbed us of as a species. It's a security blanket that we've held on to way too long, and it is no longer keeping us secure. It is literally choking the life out of us, and it is keeping us from really walking into our capacity. I believe our world could be a much better place if we let this one go. It
Oh, yes.
slowed us down in so many ways.
But at least during that time, you enjoyed sitting in a best of tables. You never stood on queues and things like that. But the
Oh.
price that you paid is very high because, yeah,
Mhm.
all those other things are good things that you could have helped the community to progress in.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. And what would you say to a younger version of yourself? Uh, let's say you meet a 6-year-old you.
Oh, yes. Oh, okay. All right. Okay. This is gonna sound bad, but the 6 year, if I could go back and talk to the 6-year-old me and give him any advice, it would be: you are right. Don't listen to anybody else. Trust your questions. Trust your ability to find answers, and believe in yourself, man. That I wish I can go back and tell myself that. Because at 6 years old, I had a better grasp of the Bible than I did as an adult. At 6 years old, I could read it and tell that this was fable, that this was mythology, that this is not real, that snakes do not talk. I could tell that at 6 years old, but I let people and experiences convince me of something else, and I let them teach me how to ignore my own questions. And that was not a healthy place for me. I tell people to this day, the entire 2 decades I spent as a Christian were the worst years of my life. And
Mhm.
it was a waste. I've never felt free, and it's not even, people always talk about, oh, atheists get to sin, and it's like that word doesn't mean anything to me. I
Yeah,
I
because
am
sin, there has to be God in order for you to sin. And
right.
also, God has to write the rules, not human beings.
That's right.
So you'd know that, okay, I'm transgressing against God. So it's sin.
Yes.
It's a useless word. I don't know how it made it into the dictionary. It was
Right.
supposed to remain in church or and
Oh,
defined as a religious word.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah. And the people that you left in church,
Mhm.
or the people that you introduced to the church,
Yeah.
what would you say to them?
Ooh. First thing I'd say is I am sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. I am sorry for every word. I love that. I am sorry for every role that I played in your indoctrination. I am
Uh-huh.
sorry for telling you that God would handle situations that you should handle. I am sorry for telling you that you don't have to pay attention to life. Again, these are part of my biggest regrets. That to everybody I left in church, I'm sorry that I participated with you so long. I'm sorry that when I saw that you were pretending, I didn't say it. I didn't call it out. I'm sorry for being as silent as I did. I'm sorry for not as being as bold as I should have been. And I'm sorry for believing people who were obviously not that smart. I'm sorry for overlooking the signs. I could have a long list here because I really do have a
Yeah.
heart for a lot of those days. And like I said, I have big regrets for almost my entire involvement with ministry because I do not like what it has done, especially
Yeah.
to people. You know, it's
You just gave me an idea also,
yeah.
because as a Jehovah's Witnesses, all the people that I introduced into that organization, I can't speak to them because I'm being shunned now.
Ah,
So
that's right.
I'm thinking of a video of that apology, because
Mm.
even though I'm not able to go to their homes like I went
Yep.
and knocked and introduced them to the organization, now they can see me on that video
Yeah.
and get the
Yeah.
message.
I love
No,
that.
that one, it hit hard.
Yeah.
It hit hard. It affected me.
Wow. Wow.
Mm. And the ones that are, are having doubts already and would like to reconsider, usually they don't say they would like to reconsider uh, their faith. They say their faith is challenged. How would you deal with a person who says, my faith is challenged? Because before would tell them, strengthen your faith.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
read whatever, pray.
I have a different approach to faith, right? And so I separate faith from belief. And so and I'm picky like that. I'm linguistics. But I tell people the problem is we use the word faith when we mean belief, all right? Your belief is challenged and it should be. To me, faith is what I exercise with my wife and I are faithful to each other. This is a trust based off of understanding, an
Mhm.
understanding of who she is, an understanding of who I am, not any type of blind relationship. If I could not see her, could not feel her, could not hear her, I could have no faith in her ability to do anything for me. I have faith in this chair that every time I sit down, it's going to be here. So, my understanding of faith, regardless of how religious people use it, my understanding of faith is that faith is something you can only have based off of understanding. I have
Oh, yes.
faith that when I
Uh,
get in a
it doesn't just need belief.
it exactly.
Yeah.
And so typically when I talk to believers about it, I do take them back to their own scripture there. That when they say, well, when my faith is being challenged, well, I tell them in all of your getting, you should be getting understanding. And if understanding is challenging your faith, something is wrong with your faith.
Mhm.
I like to do that to people.
Well, good. Well, good. I
um,
love that one also.
yes, sir.
And you touched your family when it comes to Christmas and children and the like.
Mhm.
Other problems that you have had with the family apart on that level since you deconverted?
Oh man. Oh yes. We are. I have 4 children. My wife and I we're a blended family, 2 girls, 2 boys, and so we do things quite differently. We do homeschool 2 of our kids, and then 2 of them are in private school, and so even that was different. As Black people homeschooling, that's another thing Black people allegedly don't do. But but my wife and I are both products of the public education school system here in the States, and it was not a positive experience for either of us. We recognized very quickly that if we wanted our kids to actually have some type of understanding of the world, that we'd probably have to be more active in their academics, and so that's the route we took there. That made a lot of people upset. Like, why are you homeschooling your children? You're trying to teach them cult stuff, and it's just like, oh my goodness. Just really trying to make sure that my kids know more than the average high school graduate here in America, because the average high school graduate here in the United States still believes that, and the average still believes that our Earth is only 6,000 years old. The average high school graduate in the United States believes that Noah's Ark was a real event and that there was a worldwide flood. You know, I had a very good preacher friend who, I mean, literally a few years ago, we were on the phone, and he says, "Man, I always think about Noah's Ark and Noah having to look and see those dinosaurs dying with the people." And I'm just like, this cannot be a full-grown adult who not only thinks that Noah's Ark happened, but also think that people and dinosaurs were on the planet at the same time 6,000 years ago. This is mind-blowing me. And that's the product of our education system here in this country.
Yeah.
And you know, and so yeah, it's almost everything we do is problematic to believe, to my believing family, because they already see me as being motivated by the devil, and so they can't see anything else. I'm hyper focused in this part of my life, mainly because I realize I waste so much time before, so I work a lot. I mean, I work a lot, but I realized that, like, that's the only way I was ever going to get out of poverty. On the other side, I spent my whole time praying, believing that if I just prayed and just worshiped and preached hard enough, that God was going to reward me and take me out of poverty one day. I finally realized, okay, that's not how things work. So I work a lot, and even that, my family's like, "Oh, he's just money driven now. That's the devil. He's serving money now," and it's just like, oh goodness. So
also, the worldview has changed there to more of action than wishing.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yep.
And on the morals, are you sinning more now? Do you enjoy your sin better?
Oh, absolutely. I enjoy myself. Oh my goodness. But to be true, to be absolutely clear, my last few years as a pastor, I was already there. And so someone said that in my comments, "Oh, you just left God to sin," and I'm like, every preacher on
What
this
you say?
planet.
Yeah, that's very common even here.
That's right. Nobody needs God to sin. You know, nobody needs God. You know, I don't know anybody who has God and is not sinning. Everybody I know who has God is also sinning. So God is not a
In fact, we need God because if there's God, then there's license to sin. I can
That's
sin
right.
and ask for forgiveness.
That's right.
Whereas if I do something wrong to a person now, it's me with that person. I've got to go and apologize, and it's a longer process.
That's right.
Whereas if I was a Christian, I ignore the person. I just talk to God. God.
That is a valid point. Like, that's because that's a real problem. That's, as long as I ask God for forgiveness, I don't have to get it right with this person that I screwed over. And it's like, that's just amazing to me. Boy. But no, I do enjoy. I drink. You know, I cuss, but I was cussing before. I don't believe in magical words, point blank, period. So I don't believe in blessed words. I don't believe in cursed words. Words are just words. My family, we enjoy our lives. My whole family is ultimately agnostic and atheist, as far as my intermediate, my wife and my kids. And so we enjoy life. I don't know if I'd be considered a sinner by most people, but I guess the fact that I drink, smoke, and cuss, that'll do it for enough. But honestly, sin has just been irrelevant to my life ever since. It's not even something I think
It's a
of.
strange word.
Yeah, there's like, yeah, what is this? I
I
treat
use it
people
for
with
comedy.
respect. Yeah, pretty much. Like,
You know,
man.
there are questions that we could have gone to, but time doesn't allow us.
Yes, sir.
So maybe in future you'll revisit us so that we deal with other issues.
Absolutely.
But what is
Absolutely.
important now is for people to be able to contact you, because now you are an important member of the community.
Yes, sir.
How
Well,
do we contact you?
well, I am on pretty much on all social media, and because my name is so unique, I am my name everywhere. I'm Darante LaMar on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, and of course we'll be producing more content for the YouTube channel. Give me a little time. This has all taken me a little bit by storm. I did not imagine our channel would get this much traction, but I am not mad at it at all. Whatever I can do to contribute to a more progressive worldview across the world, that's what I want to do. And it's not even just me; it's being amazed at how many others are out here. Like that is that. You know what? Just and this will be my last little thing. The most amazing thing on this side of things is how much love has actually been on this side that I did not get on the other side. You would think
Yeah,
that as a Christian I would have experienced just an overwhelming loving experiences, and that's just not how it was. But on
because
this
on the
side,
other side you are told to love others.
yeah,
Yeah, nobody tells you to love other people. You just love them.
you just love them. It's not even something that has to be said. Wow,
Uh-huh.
I love.
I noticed that. I noticed that you post on others, but on, what do they call it, TikTok. Uh,
Oh yes.
it has
Oh,
been some time that you haven't done it.
yep. You're
And
right.
let me tell you, the youth in Africa, uh, the deconversion happens in TikTok.
Wow.
In fact,
Wow.
when TikTok was introduced into the picture, I started seeing the number of atheists going up.
Wow. All right. Point taken. I will get my behind back on TikTok.
Yes, it's good for the younger folks,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That makes
and
sense.
they do need us. We should leave them with something.
Absolutely. I agree. I agree.
So the links, I'll put them on the description for those who are listening.
Yes.
And in future, expect an invitation from us again. It was
Absolutely.
such a pleasure talking to you.
I am
And
looking
say
forward
hi
to
to
it.
your wife. It's good if people are working as family.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.